Hello, friends of the channel. Today I want to give you a different experience. So, to make the most of it, put on your headphones, choose a cozy corner, dim the lights, and close your eyes. Get ready to join me in the seductive read of the week. Luna, feeling neglected in her marriage to Cole, finds comfort and passion in John, her husband's younger brother. The forbidden romance between Luna and John is discovered by Cole, causing a devastating rift in the family and forcing Luna to face the consequences of her choices between desire and loyalty. But first, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like to support us and guarantee more exciting stories like this. So, let's go! The clock showed 9:45 p.m. when I decided to disconnect from my tasks and pay attention to the environment around me. The house was immersed in silence, broken only by the subtle sound of the rain that was beginning to fall outside. A soft light from the living room lamp drew shadows on the furniture, but internally I felt a darkness that went far beyond night. Cole, my husband, had left for the office early, and I knew he would be late getting back as usual. His work as a lawyer seemed to swallow every moment of his life, while I became almost invisible, as if I existed in a separate reality. I left the couch and approached the window, watching the drops running down the glass. I remembered how, long ago, this house vibrated with laughter and love. What happened to what we were? Where did the endless conversations go? The spontaneous kisses, the passion that once united us. The feeling of loneliness enveloped me like a weight I couldn't shake. I picked up my cell phone and opened the messages, hoping to see a notification from him. A simple sign, but, as I already imagined, nothing. With a lump in my throat, I fell back onto the sofa, immersed in thoughts that seemed to have no end. Cole's voice echoed in my mind. "Luna, are you okay?" But he knew it was just a formality. He no longer really cared. His career took so much of his attention that he barely noticed my presence or lack thereof. I would respond with, "I'm great," and a practiced smile, while, inside, a whirlwind of emotions stirred. The desire to be heard, to be noticed, to be loved. Suddenly, the doorbell interrupted my thoughts. I stood up with my heart racing, harboring an irrational hope that it was Cole. But when he opened the door, there was John, Cole's little brother, drenched in the rain with a shy smile. "Hi, Luna, can I come in?" He was already walking forward, crossing the door without waiting for a response. John had always had this light, relaxed manner that contrasted with Cole's rigidity. I'd known him for years, but strangely, I'd never realized how interesting he could be. I know maybe I should have moved on, but seeing the rain coming down, I thought I'd come by and see how you were, said John, as he took off his wet coat and gave it a gentle shake to get rid of the excess water. "Is Cole still in the office?" he asked, as if he already knew the answer. "Yes, I think he won't come back until much later," I replied, trying to hide the hint of sadness that escaped my voice. "Do you want something to drink? Coffee? Tea? A coffee would be great," he said, with a warm smile that seemed to bring the room to life. I went to the kitchen, where I started preparing the drink, and soon the smell of freshly brewed coffee filled the space. With the cups ready, I came back and sat with him at the table. "So, how are things going?" I asked, trying to keep the conversation light. But as I looked at him, I felt an unexpected connection, as if there was something more in his gaze. The usual work, college, those routines, he replied. But there was a sparkle in his eyes that caught my attention. "And you? Have you been feeling well? Here alone?" His question took me by surprise, and for a moment I was silent. "Well, I guess sometimes I feel a little alone," I admitted, looking down. "Cole is always so focused on work." He looked at me with an understanding, almost worried face. "You know you can call me whenever you need. There's no reason to go through this alone," he said in a soft, comforting voice that enveloped me. I looked at him, feeling my heart race. "Thank you, John. This really means a lot to me," I replied. But inside, a pang of guilt hit me that I was enjoying the attention so much. The conversation continued naturally, and with each shared laugh, I felt the tension in my chest dissolve little by little. John had a way of making me feel alive, as if his every sentence revealed something new and fascinating. The atmosphere became light, and for a moment, I completely forgot that I was married. "Do you remember that trip to the beach we all took together?" Cole was so excited, he commented, bringing up a fond memory. I smiled, remembering how that trip had been full of laughter and special moments. But I soon realized how everything had changed since then. "Yes, it was so fun," I replied with a touch of nostalgia. "We don't seem to do that sort of thing anymore, do we? Life gets so fast," he agreed, but with a look that conveyed something deeper. "But you deserve more moments like those." "Luna," I felt my face heat up under his gaze, and suddenly a question echoed in my mind. What was happening? John was just Cole's brother, and I was married. But at the same time, something inside me yearned for that connection, like I was waking up from a long sleep. It was then that silence fell upon us, as if the environment around us had changed. Our eyes met, and a wave of emotions hit me, intense and overwhelming. An unexpected desire, an attraction that I had never considered. My thoughts tried to warn me. This was wrong. But before I could process it all, John abruptly pulled away, as if he had caught on to what was going on in my mind. "I think I'd better go," he said in a hurried tone, the tension between us almost palpable. I knew I shouldn't prolong that moment, but deep down, a part of me didn't want him to go. "Wait," I said, perhaps louder than I intended. "You don't have to go. We can watch a movie or something." He hesitated, looking at me with a mixture of desire and uncertainty. "Are you sure?" "I don't want to be a bother." "You're not bothering me," I replied, my heart racing. "Stay, please." He accepted, and soon we were sitting on the couch with a movie playing on the screen, but it was as if our minds were 1,000 kilometers away. The connection between us became more and more tangible. A whirlwind of conflicting emotions grew inside me, and I knew I was putting myself in a delicate situation. As the film progressed, the attraction between us seemed to intensify. John was getting closer and closer, and I could feel his breathing, which made my heart race even more. With each exchange of glances, I felt more trapped in that invisible web that was forming. What should have been a simple visit became something deeper and more dangerous. And then, when our eyes finally met again, the accumulated tension seemed ready to explode. The desire, the connection, everything converged for that moment. It was as if the world around us had disappeared, and there was only me and him. "Luna," he whispered, and at that moment I realized that, from now on, nothing would be the same. The line that separated friendship from betrayal was about to be broken, and I found myself torn between what I knew was right and what my heart, in silence, cried out for. Seeking clarity, I escaped the city, leaving routine and commitments behind. I drove to the family's beach house, looking for a place where I could reevaluate my life, amidst the sound of waves gently crashing on the sand. Cole, always busy with his commitments, wasn't there, and this time alone felt like an opportunity to sort out the feelings that were overwhelming me. As soon as I arrived, I quickly unpacked my bags and let the smell of the sea renew my senses. The house was empty, but the memories of sunny days and family laughter were still alive, echoing in the air. I sat on the porch, watching the horizon where the sky melted into the sea, and for a moment I found myself thinking. Part of me wished Cole was there, but another part relished the freedom of not having to think about his opinions or expectations. Over time, a different feeling began to emerge. It wasn't just the loneliness that bothered him, but the memory of John, the way he had looked at me during the last family dinner, the smile that seemed to light up everything around. These were images I couldn't shake. I knew I was treading dangerous ground, but the desire was undeniable. There was something between us, an attraction that I could no longer pretend didn't exist. That night, as I lay down, images of John invaded my dreams. I remembered the brief but intense touch that made my body react in a way I hadn't expected. I felt confused, torn between loyalty to Cole and the irresistible attraction that blossomed toward his brother. When I finally fell asleep, it was a turbulent rest, filled with scenes of forbidden love. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the window, bringing with it a new determination. I needed to clear my mind, push away the thoughts that disturbed me. I got dressed quickly and went to the beach. The warm sand beneath my feet brought me a feeling of vitality, and the cold water, as I plunged in, felt like an invigorating shock. As I swam, my worries seemed to dissolve, albeit temporarily. It was then that as I came out of the water, I heard voices. I looked down at the sand and saw a familiar figure. It was John, standing there, watching the sea with a carefree smile. My heart raced. What was he doing here? Was it just a coincidence or something else I couldn't explain? The tension that was once just a whisper now seemed to pulse between us. "Hi, what a surprise to see you here," he said with a twinkle in his eye. "Hi, John," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady even though I felt my heart speed up. "I decided to come here. I needed some time away from the city. I come often too," he said, taking a step closer. "This place has something special, don't you think? Everything seems to make more sense here." "It's true," I murmured, looking away, fearing what this growing connection between us might mean. John approached the water's edge, and although hesitant, I ended up following in his footsteps. He reached out his hand to me, inviting me into the water. "Let's swim a little. The sea is incredible today," he said with an insistent look. "I don't know," I murmured hesitantly, but the temptation was great. "Please, just a moment," he insisted with a smile that was impossible to refuse. I gave in, and we dived side by side in the cool waters, enjoying the silence and each other's company. When we emerged, our wet bodies were covered in sand, and the tension between us seemed to have intensified. I stared at him for a moment, and in that instant, everything I understood about right and wrong seemed to disappear. "Luna, you're amazing," he said, breaking the silence. "I feel like we have something special." "John, this is wrong. I'm married." My voice shook, but deep down, I knew I was giving myself over to the moment. "I know," he replied, moving even closer. "But you deserve to be happy, just like me." The space between us felt charged with electricity, an undeniable tension. "Maybe this is just an illusion," I muttered, trying to convince myself. But he was so close that what was about to happen seemed inevitable. Then, on impulse, our lips met. The kiss started out soft, but quickly turned into something more intense, filled with a passion that I didn't even know existed within me. The feeling was like an explosion of emotions, and for a moment I allowed myself to lose myself completely. When we finally pulled away, we were panting, and reality came crashing back down on me, bringing with it a wave of guilt. But John held my face gently, his eyes fixed on mine. "It was just a kiss, Luna. We can make this work. It doesn't have to be the end," he whispered, a glimmer of hope and desire in his voice. I don't know, John. This is so complicated," I replied, still stunned. "So, let's just live in the moment, no pressure," he suggested, trying to reassure me. But deep down, I knew that wasn't true. It couldn't be just a fleeting moment. If you're following our story, tell us in the comments which city you're watching. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Upon returning home, the guilt and mess weighed on me like a burden. Every step I took reminded me of Cole, the commitment we had, and the trust he placed in me. But the memory of John's kiss was a lingering flame, a passion that defied every rule I'd ever followed. Back in the city, the routine resumed its course, but something in me had changed. My interactions with Cole became increasingly cold. He, always absorbed in his work, seemed more distant than ever, and this indifference only increased my attraction to John. Every message exchanged, every furtive glance, made my heart race in a way I couldn't control. "Luna, is everything okay?" Cole asked me one day with a tone of concern. "You've been distant." I'm just tired, love. Work has been busy," I lied, forcing a smile. The truth was that the tension between John and I was growing stronger, and I didn't know how to escape it. Every day, I felt more connected to John, while life with Cole became a shadow of what it once was. The relationship with John was a vibrant light that I simply couldn't ignore. The dilemma grew within me every day, and I knew that soon I would have to make a decision. On that sultry night, I was sitting on the bed in a hotel room, where the soft light created an intimate atmosphere. The aroma of John's perfume still hung in the air, sweet and enveloping, mixing with the expectation that was bubbling in my chest. He was in the bathroom, getting ready for what promised to be an unforgettable night. My heart was beating fast, but along with the excitement, guilt was also present. When John left, I felt out of breath. He had his shirt half open, revealing part of his chest, and his eyes shone with a mixture of desire and affection. He approached slowly, as if he wanted to prolong each moment. And at that moment, I realized that I was in front of everything I wanted, but also everything that made me feel like a traitor. "You look beautiful," he said, a smile that lit up his face. Instinctively, I returned a shy smile, but the memory of Cole soon invaded me, bringing an overwhelming feeling of guilt. "John, I don't know if this is right," I murmured, looking away. "I'm married, and Cole isn't here right now," he interrupted, moving even closer. "And you deserve to be happy, Luna. The connection we have is special, rare. We can't ignore it because of rules that don't define who we are." I wanted to believe his words, but the image of Cole, his gentle smile, his caring gaze, lingered in my mind, a constant reminder of the commitment we were about to betray. It was as if Cole's shadow loomed over us, even though he was miles away. John, noticing my hesitation, lifted my chin gently, forcing me to face him. "You don't need to feel guilty," he whispered, his voice low and captivating. "We both know what we want. Tonight is ours. And you? What would you do in this situation? Comment below and take the opportunity to leave your like." Those words echoed in me like a promise of freedom, an escape from what had become a monotonous life. I needed something that made me feel alive, that broke the invisible chains that held me back. And there, next to John, was exactly what I felt, a long-forgotten freedom. "Okay," I murmured, taking a deep breath, letting the decision escape my lips almost uncontrollably. "Let's enjoy tonight." A smile lit up John's face, making my heart skip a beat. He came closer, and his lips touched mine in a soft kiss, which soon intensified. The passion repressed for so long enveloped us, and I surrendered to him, feeling a mix of guilt and desire that swirled like a whirlwind inside me. Our bodies moved in perfect sync, as if they were made for each other. Every touch, every sigh seemed to confirm the intensity of the moment we were living. The emotion of betrayal pulsed through my veins. But at that moment, I refused to think about any consequences. I just wanted to feel, let myself get lost in that night. When we finally pulled away, panting, John looked at me with unexpected concern. "Are you well?" he asked, sincerity evident in his tone. "Yes," I replied, smiling slightly, although I still felt a shadow of doubt. It's just all so intense." "I know," he replied, stroking my face with his fingertips. "But it's precisely this intensity that makes everything so special. We don't need to think about anything other than our moment," John whispered, and for a moment, he was right. I needed to allow myself that freedom, even if it was just for a fleeting moment. We surrender again, as if the world outside simply ceased to exist. The room was filled with soft laughter, whispers, and promises that would never need to be said out loud. For a few hours, it was just us, free from the obligations and responsibilities that always pulled me back. But as the night progressed, guilt began to creep back into my thoughts. When John grabbed my hand and pulled me closer, doubt washed over me, and the question escaped my lips before I could stop it. "What are we really doing?" I asked, my voice showing the insecurity that dominated me. "This can't just be a fling, right? John stopped, looking at me deeply. Luna, what I feel for you goes beyond the physical. It was never just an adventure for me. He said it with a sincerity that almost moved me, but Cole's name still echoed painfully in my mind. So, what are we going to do with this? I'm so lost, I mumbled, feeling the anguish manifest itself as a tightness in my chest. Luna, you need to decide what you really want, John said, his voice calm but firm. I'll be here if you choose, but you need to be honest with yourself. Those words resonated inside me, penetrating deep. I was trapped, torn between the love I'd always had for Cole and the overwhelming passion that John awakened in me. It was an unfair situation, not just for Cole, but also for John, and ultimately for myself. I don't know, I admitted, as tears began to form. John wrapped me in his arms, welcoming me, one step at a time. You don't need to decide everything now, he whispered, offering me the comfort that, at that moment, was all I needed. That momentary comfort was all I could hold on to. But as the night wore on, reality approached like a shadow, thick and inescapable. What I was doing wasn't just an escape. It was a betrayal that could destroy everything Cole and I had built. When the night finally came to an end and the first light of dawn came through the curtains, a new fear gripped me. How would I explain my absence to Cole? What would you say to justify where I've been? The questions piled up, and I felt like the truth was about to unfold in ways I couldn't control. As I looked at John, who was sleeping peacefully next to me, a new dilemma came over me. I had found my passion, but at what cost? The need to be honest with Cole weighed heavily on my conscience, and I knew that the decision I would make from that moment on would forever alter the course of my life. The sound of my cell phone vibrating on the nightstand interrupted my thoughts. It was a message from Cole. My heart skipped a beat as I read, "Hi, love. How was your night? I miss you." I looked at John, still asleep, and a wave of guilt washed over me with overwhelming force. What had once felt like freedom and passion now turned into a nightmare I didn't know how to avoid. I need to decide, I muttered to myself, as reality settled in my heart like an unbearable weight. Later, I was sitting in a bright restaurant where the lights reflected off the wine glasses, creating an immersive, almost romantic atmosphere. I stood in front of John, trying to maintain my composure amid the euphoria and internal conflict that consumed me. I felt my heart accelerate with each look he gave me, as if, for a brief moment, all the uncertainty and guilt could dissipate. There was something almost magical about that moment, an intense connection that seemed to envelop us. "You look stunning tonight," John said, with a look so intense it seemed to say so much more than words could express. Those words made me feel alive, as if that compliment was the validation I was secretly seeking. However, the shadow of Cole, my husband, hung over us like a cloud I couldn't shake. "Thank you," I replied, trying to keep it light. "You look great too. That blue shirt brings out your eyes." We were like characters in a romantic movie, but the reality was infinitely more complicated. As the waiter served dinner, our conversations flowed naturally, but in my mind, guilt weighed down, a weight that was difficult to ignore. "How are you feeling with all this?" I asked, breaking a silence that carried growing tension. "I feel good, better than good. I feel like I'm living something real, Luna. Something I can't ignore," he said, his voice low, full of emotion. How could I respond to that? The truth was, I felt this deep connection too, but the guilt gnawed at me. I don't know if this is right," I muttered, looking away from the plate in front of me. John leaned in closer, and his proximity made my heart race even more. "Sometimes what's right and what's wrong isn't so clear," he said sincerely. "Look at us, at how we feel together. This can't just be an illusion." I saw the truth in his eyes, and for an instant, I was overcome with a desire to believe. But the memory of Cole, of his smile, and the moments we shared kept me from giving myself over completely. I tried to divert the conversation, change the focus, but the atmosphere between us was so heated that we were soon talking about our lives, our dreams, and fears. John was captivating, And the way he spoke about his aspirations as an artist fascinated me. He had a freedom and a passion that made me see the world in a different way. Something I had never allowed myself to do. With him, I felt like more than just a lawyer's wife. I felt like a whole person, capable of having my own desires and ambitions. When dinner ended and we asked for the check, my head was spinning with the mix of feelings he aroused. "Shall we go for a walk along the beach?" suggested John, and I, unable to refuse, agreed. The sea breeze seemed to bring a promise of something new, something close to freedom. We walked side by side, and the brush of our arms created an invisible current that seemed to bring us even closer. The sand beneath our feet and the gentle sound of the waves created the perfect soundtrack for that forbidden moment. Suddenly he stopped and looked me in the eyes, and I knew something important was about to be said. "Luna, I need to tell you something," he began, his voice full of emotion. "Since the first time we met, I haven't been able to get you out of my head. You fascinate me. Your beauty, your intelligence, everything about you is incredible." I was paralyzed, a mix of joy and fear spreading through my body. "John, this can't happen. I'm married," I protested, but the lack of conviction in my voice was evident even to me. "I know," he replied, taking a step closer, "but that doesn't change how we feel. We need to be honest with ourselves." His words echoed inside me, and for a moment, the line between right and wrong seemed blurrier than ever. He answered me, and before I could collect my thoughts, he leaned in and kissed me. It was a soft kiss, but full of passion, and without resisting, I gave in, feeling the world around us disappear. After a few moments, we pulled away, both panting. "That was intense," I muttered, trying to reorganize my thoughts. "I don't want this to end here, Luna," said John with a firm and determined look. "Please don't let me be just a passing moment in your life." His words rang in my mind as we walked back to the car. Doubt consumed me. I knew I would need to make a decision soon. The idea of giving up Cole was scary. After all, despite the flaws, our life together still meant something to me. In the days that followed, tension at home increased. Cole began to notice my distance, and with genuine concern began to question me about my day. I increasingly invented excuses and lies to cover up the escapades and messages exchanged with John. "You seem distant, Luna. Is everything okay between us?" he asked one night while we were having dinner. The way he looked at me, with the expectation of affection that I could no longer give, cut me deeply. "Yeah, I'm fine. Just a little tired," I replied, trying to smile, but Cole's worried look made me uneasy. I was torn between two worlds, and this division only increased my guilt. However, the attraction to John was irresistible. He would send me messages throughout the day, and each notification was a reminder that something intense was happening. One afternoon, unable to resist, I arranged a new meeting with him, this time in a discreet hotel. The hotel room John had suggested felt like a secret hideaway, and as I walked in, I felt adrenaline pumping through my veins. It was as if we were living in a movie, where the outside world simply ceased to exist. With each touch, each kiss, the intensity between us increased, creating a passion that seemed impossible to contain. But no matter how much I surrendered to that moment, a voice inside me screamed to stop. "Luna, you're everything I ever wanted. Don't let me go," John whispered, as we lost ourselves in an instant of pure surrender. I closed my eyes, trying to forget the life I left behind, but the guilt followed me like a constant shadow. Still, the connection to John was undeniable. He made me feel alive in a way I hadn't felt in years. And as we gave ourselves to each other, I knew that with every moment spent together, the consequences became harder to ignore. Over the next few days, I noticed Cole becoming more alert, as if he sensed something was out of place. He began to watch my steps with growing suspicion, and with each message from John, my heart raced, knowing that the truth could be discovered at any moment. The pressure was building, and the gulf between me and Cole seemed to grow wider every day. Then one night, as I was getting ready to leave, I heard Cole come home earlier than expected. My heart froze and time seemed to slow down as I quickly tried to find an excuse. "Luna, are you ready? Let's go out," he called, his tone casual. But the weight of the situation left me speechless. "Yeah, I'm just finishing up a few things," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady, even though inside a storm was brewing, and I knew the line between my two worlds was about to break. I knew that time was running out, and that soon the truth would come out. The sound of water running in the shower mixed with the echoes of a storm brewing outside, and I was so lost in my own thoughts that I didn't realize how much time had passed. John and I were together, sharing a moment that felt both magical and forbidden. The intensity of our encounter, the adrenaline pumping through our veins, made everything almost irresistible. But then the silence was broken by an unexpected sound, the creaking of the door opening. Before I could process what was happening, Cole was there, standing in the bathroom doorway, his gaze frozen in shock. Water ran down my body, but the real cold came from the scene unfolding before me. Cole was there, in the flesh, and in a moment of despair, all I could do was stare at him, paralyzed by terror and guilt. "Cole!" My voice came out in a muffled scream, almost a whisper, as I searched for words that could reverse the unfolding disaster. But panic caught any explanation in my throat. John, who was so close to me, quickly moved away, covering himself with the towel hanging on the wall, but the damage was already done. The environment that once felt like a secret haven was now an emotional battleground. Cole's gaze flickered between me and John, and the expression on his face morphed from confusion to an anger that showed in every feature. "How could you, Luna?" he asked, voice shaking with indignation and pain. "How could you betray me like that?" "No, it's not what it seems," I tried to respond, but the words died in my throat. What could I say? That I was lost in a passion I never asked for? I felt alone, neglected. I tried to explain, but now those justifications seemed weak, almost insignificant. "It's not what it seems," Cole laughed bitterly, his voice thick with pain. "You're naked, in the shower, with my brother. What else could it be?" John, in a gesture of desperation, tried to intervene. "Cole, please let me explain." "Explain? Do you want to explain to me how you were able to do that?" Cole snapped, his voice filled with a fury I'd never seen before. "You're my brother. How did you have the nerve to touch my wife?" "Wait, Cole, please," I yelled, finally finding some voice in the chaos. "Please just listen to me. This isn't just about betrayal. This is about how I felt all these years." For a brief moment, Cole's expression seemed to change, as if a hint of compassion or confusion passed through him. "And you think that justifies what you did?" His voice was full of anger, but also pain. "You cheated on me, with my own brother." The intensity of his fury was like a storm ready to explode, and the pain in his eyes was a cruel reflection of the confusion I felt. "Cole, I felt alone. You were always so busy, so distant. I didn't know who I was anymore. So to deal with this, you throw yourself into John's arms? That's your answer?" He was screaming now, and the anger was reverberating off the bathroom walls. John, who until then seemed to be trying to cower, finally spoke up, his voice low but firm. "Cole, I didn't plan this. It wasn't something I sought out. The connection between us, it was something that just happened." "Connection?" Cole laughed again, but his laughter was devoid of any humor. "Is this what you call a betrayal? A hookup?" That word seemed to echo, carried with a weight that I knew I could never remove. "You talk about connection while destroying your own brother's life. And you, Luna, do you really think this is love?" Cole's voice shook, and I felt the depth of the pain we were causing. I don't know what love is anymore," I shouted, frustration consuming me. "I don't know anything anymore. All I know is that I feel lost. And you, Cole, never noticed that. Never noticed how I was." My words hung in the air like a broken spell, a bitter truth exposed for all to see. Cole looked at me, in disbelief and hurt, as if trying to understand how we got here. "So what do you want now?" he asked. his voice more controlled but still filled with grief. Do you want me to forgive you? Do you want me to accept this as normal? No, that's not what I want, I replied as tears streamed down my face. I just know I can't go on like this, living a lie. Cole shook his head, despair written all over his face. You don't understand, Luna. You're destroying everything. You and John, this can't end well. John, realizing the gravity of the situation, tried to intervene. Cole, I understand you're hurt, but I'm not the enemy here. Luna and this happened, but it wasn't planned. No, John, Cole interrupted, the anger in his voice threatening to explode. You're part of this. You're a living betrayal, and I don't know how to deal with this. Cole was about to lose control completely, and I knew I needed to intervene before everything became even worse. Cole, please, I asked, trying to get closer, but he backed away, as if the simple touch would burn. I didn't want things to come to this, but now it seemed impossible to turn back. I just wanted you to see how I felt, I murmured, voice full of frustration and regret. Cole looked at me, and for a brief moment I could see the deep pain in his eyes. But soon this pained expression gave way to cold determination. I can't stay here, Luna. I can't look at you and John and pretend this didn't happen. Cole, please don't do this, I begged. But he was already turning around, walking out of the bathroom and leaving a trail of destruction behind him. Cole! I screamed. But he was already gone, taking with him not only our marriage, but a part of me. I stood there paralyzed with the water still running down my body, feeling the crushing weight of what had just happened. Reality began to set in relentlessly. Beside me, John had an expression of concern and confusion. Luna, I'm so sorry. I never wanted it to come to this. But we're here, I replied, my voice low and shaky. What we did? There's no going back. The truth was like a blade stuck in my chest. I had cheated on my husband, and now I was facing the consequences of an irreversible mistake. The life I knew had changed forever, and I had no idea how to move forward. I don't know how to fix this, I mumbled, feeling the emptiness growing inside me. John tried to get closer, but at that moment, there was no comfort in his words. There was nothing he could say to make this all less painful. The bathroom door was ajar, and the sound of the rain beating against the windows seemed like a dark reflection of the storm that now inhabited my heart. I looked at John and realized there was no turning back. Did you like this story? I loved that it stayed here until the end. Subscribe to the channel that there's a lot more coming. Click on the videos on the screen and keep watching.